friends, hi, this is Dr. Shonali Chandra, your PW MedEd faculty for Obs Gynae. Now, I've been asked to talk about the PG residency in Obs Gynae since, many of you must be thinking of joining the branch. So, branch के बारे में क्या बताऊँ मैं? I can only talk about my own personal experiences with the branch. A branch pick up करने के variety of reasons हो सकते हैं. For instance, मेरा personal reason ये था कि I eliminated the other branches that I did not really want to pursue. And I always wanted a good mix of medicine and surgical branches at the same time. So I wanted that surgical exposure also while doing my post graduation and for further in life also. So I eliminated pediatrics, I eliminated medicine. I wanted a clinical branch, but I didn't want ENT. I thought about ophthal also, in the sense that, again, it was a medical and a surgical branch. But for me personally, it so happened that I thought that I would not be able to look into a microscope all my life and, do microscopic surgery. So I wanted, yes, my hands dirty, to put it that way, but I didn't want the general surgery branch, but I always was, very keenly interested in Obs Gynae field particularly. I was a good student, good scorer in Obs Gynae in my undergraduate years as well. So that was my prime motivation, to take the branch Obs Gynae. Apart from that, जब हम branch pick करते हैं initially, straight out of the undergraduation, we sometimes don't think of the other perspectives related to the branch, in the sense that, आगे job opportunities कैसी होंगी या फिर how financially rewarding will be that particular branch. अभी, we've not yet started earning, we're not yet out into the real world. तो आगे life में और भी changes आते हैं, personal and professional and everything. So things evolve as we go on in life. And but these are certain perspectives that we should be thinking about nowadays also when we think about talking about a branch. So I want to give you guys a very unbiased perspective. So I want to give you the pros and cons both related to the branch. And again, talking from my personal experiences, you see, I was an undergraduate student in Meerut LLRM Medical College. Then I went ahead and joined post-graduation in Maulana Azad, MAMC, New Delhi. So when I came here, it was like a very different world entirely, first of all. So there was this change of place, change of college, new environment. And along with that, I picked up a very hectic branch to begin with. I mean, nobody tells you how hectic it will be. And in our days, yes, beginning from the very first day itself, we were not cajoled and consoled, हमें कोई पुचकारा नहीं गया था, to be frank enough. So we started with the residency program and we were like bombarded with work initially. I mean, all of us have seen the first year postgraduates with their heavy bag and syringes and medicines and everything dumped inside the bag, and they're running around the wards, and there's no time to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner. Everything goes haywire because you're just adjusting to the new environment, right? So that is something that everybody goes through. But yes, it is a hectic branch at the end of the day, and there are night shifts involved. Like I remember in our times, we had like every weekly we had a 24-hour shift. That was the emergency shift. Apart from that, ward duties लगती हैं, overnight रुकना पड़ता है, and the next day, if you're lucky, you get a comp off. Otherwise, you may not get a comp off. So these are things that you deal with. So for somebody who wants a relaxed life, okay, chill, want to have no emergencies and no hectic schedule, I mean, this is definitely not a branch for you, right? So आपको ये भी सोचना पड़ेगा कि what kind of a person are you? Are you really willing to get down to it and do the hard work that is required in any clinical branch for that matter, not just Obs Gynae. I mean, if you talk about general surgery, if you talk about medicine also, यही perspective होगा कि yes, there are long drawn hours. फिर हम सोचते हैं कि यार ये ख़त्म कभी होगा, ये पीजी के 3 साल ही ऐसे हैं कि आगे जाके भी ऐसे होगा. सो अगेन, आई मीन, it all depends as to where you end up after your post graduation. So coming back to the residency years, if you people have already picked up Obs Gynae as a branch, then if you're hassled कि यार first year में नहीं पढ़ने का टाइम मिल रहा, किताबें खोलने का टाइम नहीं मिल रहा, वार्ड में ही घुसे हुए हैं, इतना सारा काम चल रहा है. So that's how it is, okay? That's how it is going to be for most of the times. So what we used to do is study with the patients. Your patient is the most important textbook actually that you will have. I mean, no doubt that you have to go through the standard textbook, but हाँ, first year में pace can be slower. Okay, pace can be slower, but again यही समय है consolidate करने का your concepts and your studies, and you know जितना समय मिल सकता था spend in your ward, and we used to do that. Even in our labor room duties, we used to try get some time to read up, and that is how we survived the first year. उसके बाद फिर second year आ जाता है where most of your time is spent working on your thesis. And it depends, there are certain colleges जिसमें thesis third year के end में submit करनी पड़ती है before your final postgraduate exams, and we being in Delhi, we had to submit a thesis at the end of the second year. So that left our third year totally for theoretical studies. अभी theoretical studies की बात करें, so again in the branch itself, yes, surgical exposure चाहिए होता है. All of us come out of the post graduation learning how to perform cesarean sections. एक बड़ी limitation students feel करते हैं, post graduates feel करते हैं that यार cutting experience नहीं मिल रहा, be it hysterectomies, आजकल तो the standard of care is going towards laparoscopic surgical approaches. तो एक ये limitation feel होती है कि surgical exposure नहीं मिल रहा. So post graduation में depending upon where you are, which college, which city, which state, surgical exposure का different level होता है. Patient exposure का भी different level होता है, considering what kind of a college is it, what kind of a tertiary care setup it is. All in all, you do get a sound exposure to come out as good obstetricians and gynecologists. लेकिन coming back to the theoretical aspect, surgery सब सीख जाते हैं eventually. If not in the post graduation years, in the senior residency, you learn on the job also, right? अदर देन दैट जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ होती है एज अ सर्जन भी सोचने वाली, वो ये होती है कि व्हेन टू ऑपरेट एंड व्हेन नॉट टू ऑपरेट, राइट? So there are theoretical aspects, there are evidence-based medicine aspects which need to be studied, और वो over time once you go through your residency years, you gain all that experience. So that is something that you should strive towards. Okay, surgical expertise also you will gain over time, and that is, yes, a drawback, or that is how it is, let's say, with surgical branches, that the learning curve is longer, right? So if you're thinking that straight out of post graduation some wonders you will do in the surgical field, something wondrous is going to happen, that may not always be true, because yes, you will have your own surgical learning curve, right? तो वो चलता है. Now, when I finished with my post-graduation, before finishing my post-graduation, जो exams का जो stress होता है third year में, that is unlike any other stress. I mean, yes, we've gone through our NEET UG, we've gone through our NEETPG entrance examination, but let me tell you, I never had sleepless nights or dependence on my parents, so much so that that I actually faced in my postgraduate examinations. That is, I think, so far the toughest examination that I have given. That said, most of us go through it, come out with flying colors, or that is how things are. And एक और चीज़ I want to point out which really helped me in my post graduation years was the importance of group study. I mean, जब कोर्स कम होता है अंडर ग्रेजुएट ईयर्स में, हम लोग शायद कभी ग्रुप स्टडी करते, कभी नहीं भी करते हैं. एंड I was a lone wolf when I was in my undergraduate. अकेले पढ़ती थी मैं. But in my post graduation years, things turned out to be different. I really had to rely on my colleagues. We would pick out topics, pick out cases, and there's no dearth of material when you start reading into post graduation. कोई limit ही नहीं है ना कितना पढ़ सकते हो इस stage में आप. So it becomes very helpful when as a group each of you study different topics and then you teach each other. So that is something that really helped me and helped all of us actually. All of us are colleagues, right? So this is about, in brief, about the core residency years. Now, if you look at and if we start talking about the future perspectives regarding the branch, right? So pros तो branch के ये हैं कि that this can be a terminal branch in itself, right? In fact, when I entered the PG spectrum with OBGY in mind, मेरे दिमाग में यही था कि यार आगे कुछ करेंगे तो ठीक है, नहीं होगा तो फिर we can pick up a job, and Obs Gynae in itself is a terminal end branch. But over the years we've seen that pattern also changing, right? Many of my colleagues have gone ahead and done super specialization, so that scope is always there, and that scope of settling down immediately after PG is also there. If you talk about super specializations, then if you look at the government seats available for super specialization, you have the F&B examination, you have the fellowship that is given by the National Board in Reproductive Medicine, you have the Gynae Oncology MCH also, you have Urogynae fellowships, you have maternal fetal medicine fellowships, you have fellowships in minimally invasive surgery also, but they're all very limited in numbers, right? So if you're really targeting that with the government seat approach in mind, then it will require a lot of hard work. There is again a lot of competition there also. And the other alternative is there are private fellowships, but they don't pay you and they'll give you limited amount of stipend. In fact, you'll have to pay for those paid fellowships. So that alternative, that option is also there. So there are times when people work in senior residency or take up a job, save enough money also, and then go ahead and do fellowships as and when they want to upgrade themselves, so that is one way. Second is, when I finished my post-graduation, I still felt that I had to gain a lot of surgical exposure still, right? And in PG years, you're very much, you're not taking, independent decisions as far as patient care is concerned. You are more of a team. And when you start your senior residency, that is when the patient's responsibility, the decision making aspect, वो आप पे छोड़ दिया जाता है. Labor room care का पूरा जिम्मा आप पे छोड़ दिया जाता है. So you gain exposure in that sense, independent decision making, patient care. So ये सारे aspects जो हैं, ये मैंने refine किए अपने senior residency years में. Now, senior residency कितने साल के लिए करनी चाहिए? If you like हमारे टाइम पे ऐसा था कि if you had to get into the academic stream, right, assistant professor उधर की तरफ जाना था, so you had to have 3 years of senior residency completed. So I did that also. I completed my 3-year senior residency as well. And इसमें भी college to college requirement, institution to institution requirement differ करता है. Like for instance, central institutes, they always want a 3-year complete senior residency. However, relaxed norms भी होते हैं, 1-year senior residency भी suffice कर जाती है. But yet again, when you want to enter into the government job academic scenario, they put a lot of emphasis in publications. So postgraduate years में thesis अगर आप ढंग से करो अपनी, तो your thesis is one publication paper, right? So these are important things that you have to learn in your postgraduate years also, that if you have to enter the academic stream, you have to cultivate the habit of writing papers and documenting and getting yourself published, because that will build up your CV to get a job at the end of the day. So it's it is one thing to do post graduation from a good college, and the other thing is also that how much effort you're putting into your postgraduate years as well, how you're building up your CV as well during those years. That helps, right? The other option of job prospects after your post-graduation years is taking up a straightaway government job as a consultant, right? उसमें limitations ये हैं, एक तो सारे गवर्नमेंट जॉब्स की सैलरी एट पार होती है, स्टेट वाइज सब डिफरेंट होती हैं गवर्नमेंट जॉब्स में अगर देखा जाए तो, लेकिन प्रॉब्लम ये है कि वैकेंसीज लिमिटेड होती हैं. वैकेंसी ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आप पीजी करके निकलो और इमीडिएटली वैकेंसी एकदम पड़ी हो, राइट? सो डिपेंडिंग वैकेंसी कब निकलती हैं, कितनी फ्रीक्वेंटली निकलती हैं, तो उस पर होता है. प्लस अगेन you'll like I once sat for the central UPSC exam interview for assistant professor, and for 2 or 3 seats maybe there were 50 odd candidates who had come for an interview, and all 50 candidates are almost equivalent. So there is competition. Now we've entered into a field, we've entered into a profession where we will be challenged each step of the way. So ये एक पड़ाव क्रॉस किया हमने पीजी में एंट्री का. इसके बाद आगे लाइफ में in general you'll have many milestones to cross. So that is how the scope of things are. The other option is to get into a private job. Now, private job are of two kinds. Like, for instance, you could start your own private practice, right? This makes a lot of sense for those people jinka already hota hai private setup, right? So sometimes you may see, they're like ghar pe aur gynecologists hain, mother hain ya relative hain ya whatever ways. So if you do have a nursing home at home, or you have already established from your parents' side a clinical practice, so usme join karna relatively easy hota hai. So a lot of the students, they take up that route of a well-established private practice, or usi mein you also enter to establish your own private practice from ground zero. Like, for instance, I was the only doctor in my family, right? So for me, it didn't make much of a sense that I would start with my own practice straight away. So I ruled that out. I did not pursue that line of thought, but I did try working in the private setup also. Tried working as an associate consultant, and then again you realize I'm not disheartening you or something, but I'm trying to give you a realistic picture that it is going to be a fight all the way through, in the sense that what kind of a job does the private setup, private healthcare setup, especially the corporates, kind of give you, right? They hire you as your senior residents on floor. They hire you as associate consultants, as junior consultants, or some senior consultants. So you have to have this shadow job with those consultants. So all the while, your night shifts are not leaving you anytime soon in this branch. I mean, if you start pursuing obstetrics and hardcore obstetrics, you'll be prepared for sleepless nights, and you start enjoying it at the end of the day. Also, when you do make a difference in people's lives, but that's how it is. That's how the nature of our job is, that if you practice hardcore obstetrics, you are going to be dealing with nights all throughout your life, whatever your age might be, whatever your position might be. That is always the possibility. The only, I think, circumstance where when you stop doing night duties is probably when you are too senior, or let's say when you are working in a team where you can divide your night duties. Otherwise, if you're working independently, then you have to take responsibility for your own patients, जिनको आप 9 months अगर आप antenatal checkup पे देख रहे हो, उन्हें आप last moment पे abandon तो नहीं कर सकते. So if you don't want this kind of life where you're always on your toes, where you're always attending night shifts, then Obs Gynae is not the branch for you. However, yes, people, how I see my colleagues, how I see my friends doing it is like, let's say if you do a fellowship in a reproductive medicine, you go along the IVF approach. So they start taking up patients on an OPD basis. They enter into the infertility management area. And then they don't take up antenatal patients. So that is how they limit their nights probably. Then you can also venture into gynae surgeries altogether, right? So then you can plan gynae surgeries and schedule your patient accordingly, limit your emergency duties. But having said that, also I think the surgical branch is such that emergency is never going to leave you, or emergency iska hamesha hi rahega, right? So there are ways to work around it, which again we decide for ourselves as and when we follow through the branch. How well paying is the branch? Decent, I would say, because you see in life, आप जितने मेहनत करोगे, आप जितना काम करोगे, आपकी ऊंचाई उतनी है, right? There is no limitation to how much you can earn in this branch, but then again you'll have to work for it. I mean, nothing will come at your doorstep just handing to you anything on a platter. I mean, that does not happen. So you have to upgrade your surgical skills, also build on it, perform, and that is how it is again going to take its own course of time, due course of time of clinical practice that it will require. So coming from my own experiences, I tried working in the corporate sector. I tried working in the government sector also. I did my senior residency, but never got to go ahead and become an assistant professor in a medical college. That didn't happen for me. I thought that it was not working for me also. So I ventured and worked with Medicine Sans Frontier. I worked in low resource settings. I think that is what satisfied me. So one also finds his own niche. सबको अपना अपना life से satisfaction चाहिए होता है. For somebody it can be monetary, for somebody it can be good work, it can be public health also. I mean, Obs Gynae is a branch which gives you ample opportunity to work in the public health sector also. So I started working along those lines, and I have one story to share with you people. So once I was working with Medicine Sans Frontier in Bijapur, Chhattisgarh, and it was again a low resource setting. I was working in collaboration with the district hospital there, and the most nearby tertiary care hospital or medical care hospital was in Jagdalpur. I remember this so vividly because कुछ ऐसे instances होते हैं जो छाप छोड़ जाते हैं. So I remember this because again there was this woman in obstructed labor who'd come, and I was a fresh postgraduate, 3 years down into my senior residency. I was working there, and I had to operate on her. I had to perform a cesarean section, or I had to refer her to a center that was 4 hours away with obstructed labor, and we had limited resources. We were actually training the staff there to perform cesarean sections, get the OT kick started, and the cesarean that I did there, that is one cesarean that I will always remember in my life because it made a difference ना. मेरे को ऐसा लगा कि I am at the right place at the right time. So there are moments like this which makes it all worthwhile. At the end of the day, whatever जो भी sweat, पसीना, खून जो भी लगाया है अपनी branch में, it turns out to be worthwhile. And there are moments like this which make your life worthwhile, which make your branch worthwhile, which make all your efforts worthwhile. So yes, अभी cons मैंने बताए, working hours and pay parity and this and that, but at the end of the day, you see, sometimes, in fact most of the times, I would rather like to believe that surgery chooses. You do not choose surgery, your branch chooses rather than you choosing your branch. So grow into it, and it's like your life partner. You see, the decision is as important as choosing your life partner, because your branch is going to for your life. Thank you so much.